my dear CEOs and fellow hamsters. I was chilling, watching some YouTube videos, and stumbled upon really interesting insights that might drastically change your perspective in life. Let's roll in. Sometimes siblings surprise you with the biggest heart in the smallest package. This story's got brothers, love, betrayal, well, kinda, and enough cash to buy a year's worth of hamster treats. Let's roll on this emotional wheel together, shall we?
My brother says don't come home, says to meet up with me, and he gives me the last like $63.50 he had in his bank account. It's my little brother. And we didn't even get along that much. And it just meant a lot to me. And he said, you can't stay here, you gotta go. I made my first million at 27. When I was 26 though, or 25, he was a mechanic and he was supposed to buy the shop he was working at. He worked his butt off so much so the shop turned around. The guy that was supposed to sell it decides one day after he's been there for 4 years, I don't want to sell it. So he calls me up and he goes, I'm leaving, I don't want to. So what do you want to do? He's like, real estate, I guess. And I wrote him a check for $173,000. It's all the money I had in my bank account. Because he gave me that $63. He's my best friend.
Wait, I deeply believe I got something wrong, but did your brother just tell you to get out? Man, after that, even with 60 more bucks in my cheeks pouches, I'd probably give him the side eye for a week. I guess human siblings are less about hoarding and more about, what's the word? Sacrifice. If you ever felt like running but never getting anywhere, maybe the issue is not the wheel but what's happening in that little brain. This video is about how we see ourselves, and trust me, we're all worth more than we think.
A negative mind will find any way to make the world fit his priors.
Right.
So if you go into a situation adamant that you are unlovable, unwanted, broken, flawed, insufficient, you will manage to warp reality to be able to fit what you already believe.
Right.
So, if I think I'm a sad, snackless hamster, the universe is just gonna make sure I never see another goodie again? And now I have to keep my thoughts squeaky clean? I mean, ever tried to stay positive after being stuck in the same cage for hours? But hey, if a little mental reframe means more treats, maybe it's time to upgrade. Do you remember all these Nepo babies swearing being raised in middle-class families? Turns out, they really are 2 steps ahead. Scientists discovered that where you set up your cage could affect how much money you'll have later in life. Let's figure out how your neighbors could be your secret weapon for stacking more snacks.
There was a study where they looked at kids from similar economic backgrounds, aka how much money they made growing up and then how much money they went on to earn as adults. But there was one key difference. One study group was from a town where people made more money and they interacted with more people who made more money. The other was the opposite. What was the result? The group of kids that grew up in the neighborhood with more rich people had a 33% higher income by 35. That is wild. The socioeconomic status of your own family is not the #1 indicator of your future income. In fact, it's actually this thing called economic connectedness, which means how many rich people and poor people live by you, and thus you can become friends with. So if you want to make more money, watch who you surround yourself with, but also where you live.
Are you telling me that hanging out with fancy, well-fed hamsters makes me richer down the line? That explains a lot. Been wondering why all my friends are still living off discount seeds. Guess it's time to chat up with hamsters on the other side of the pet store. Okay, I got it. To be rich, you have to buy a house where the rich live. But here's a question for you. How does a hamster with no credit score get a mortgage or at least a tiny car? Wait, hamsters don't drive? Oh, well, let's say a human. I think this guy can help us.
No credit cards at all, like 0 credit cards? How do you rent a car? How do you build a credit? How do you live in a life that you can't even have a credit?
There's only one reason to build credit, and that's to borrow money. If you don't plan to borrow money, you don't need to build credit.
But what about like a mortgage?
Well, you can get a mortgage with manual underwriting with a 0 credit score.
What is manual underwriting?
Manual underwriting is the way mortgages were done when I got in the real estate business in 1978. They actually look at the human being and say, do you have a job? They verify the job. What is your income? Let me verify the income with your employer. Verify your deposit, a VOD. And so we found out if you have the money for the down payment in the bank. They actually go through the documents and prove that the person is financially able to buy a house. You can do that with a 0 credit score.
So, you don't need a credit score if you're just gonna do things the old-fashioned way? Manual underwriting sounds like something my great-grand hamster used to do when she was bartering for extra bedding. Look, I'm all for vintage vibes. And if it gets me a house with more room for my tunnels, maybe I'll give it a go. Thanks for watching these pieces of wisdom with me. For more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you in the next video. And remember, hamsters are power. One for all and all for one. Bye!